starting off, what was our process for adapting the play?
I think like the biggest part was how are we going to do this over Zoom, and trying to figure out like all the little details that we could add in to, so people can understand which character is who. Like we did that by changing the people's names on Zoom and making it whatever character we were playing. That was one big thing that we had to do. What do you guys think?
Our process for adapting the play. We started off doing a read through of the entire play, which was way more than what we knew we would need to do, but we wanted to get a feel for what was the naturally funny parts, what performance did we kind of get drawn to, what did we like. And so we read through the whole thing and we went through and broke it up into scenes. And then we talked about different criteria that we were looking for what was a good part to cover.
And another big part of figuring out which scenes we wanted to do was making sure that all three of us had, somewhat equal amounts of speaking parts. Because when we were looking at some of the other scenes, it would just be like two people talking. So the ones that we picked had all three of us going at once.
Yeah. And the part that we ended up picking what we called scene 2 and 3. There's a beginning part where Strepsiades is like restless. He's talking with his son, and then that's when he decides he's going to go enroll at the Ponditorium. We decided that we could just cut right to him walking because that would be, audiences would be able to get into the story. And then those two scenes had a lot of really funny dialogue. It had a great moments. It had good parts for everybody. And it kind of told its own little mini story within the entire play of Strepsiades trying to get into the Ponditorium to learn what he wanted to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. What were the challenges of bringing the play to life? Gary already talked about some of the stuff that we did. I'll answer for me, since I kind of worked on adapting the play into a script that we could go off of. There's two parts. Number one, the first problem is that it's a play that's written a super long time ago. So it's not like, it doesn't have the typical stuff that you would find in a play today of like, here's what they should do. It has some direction, but not everything you would look for. There was a couple parts, like we were trying to decide when is it they actually go into Ponditorium, and there's kind of we decided to call it the courtyard, but they kind of let him in, and then he talks with Socrates for a bit, and then there's actually going into the Ponditorium. So we had to figure out stuff like that. And then the trouble with doing it remotely is figuring out how to do that all through Zoom instead of like in person.
Mm-hmm.
I think we totally got really creative with it, where we all had to look up different scenes for where, like Sean had to look up a door to the Ponditorium because he was playing the student, and we were just trying to like pick and choose which scene would look best, and we were like trading photos with each other. But yeah, we wanted to have like similar settings so the audience could understand that we were in the same scene, we were in the same setting. So I thought it was actually a really fun part.
Yeah. And so for me, I would think, because I never really did a ton of acting and stuff and didn't do a lot of plays. So for me, I had to try to really get into character with the clouds and the student. And also with the backgrounds, we definitely had to coordinate like when to put these backgrounds in and then when to bring all these different props in. So that was definitely one of the challenges that we had to go through.
For sure. We kind of already talked about the next question. Why did you choose to focus on this particular part of the clouds? Is there anything else that you guys wanted to add to that?
I guess a lot of it was here. Sorry, go ahead.
Was there something in that part that you really liked and was like, I want to do this, or I think this is really funny?
I think we did cover it. It was a lot of like trying to find a part where it was, first off, it wasn't boring. It was funny. It had humor, and also like we could pick up some things about how Socrates was viewed, and how like a typical commoner like Strepsiades was viewed, and it was just trying to find a scene where all three of us could speak rather than just like two of us going on and off. So that's basically what went into picking a scene. What about you, Sean?
I mean, you pretty much already said what I was gonna say. I think, yeah, there's not really much else to say on that.
Yeah.
We should go to the next one.
When doing the read through of the play, what are some elements that you drew from to determine the personalities of the characters that you played?
Well, for me, I definitely looked up like YouTube videos and like other people that did the clouds on YouTube. And so it helped me to know like how the characters speak and what they do in the background and stuff like that.
Sure. I decided the way that Socrates was kind of written, it felt like to me that he was like thought very highly of himself and kind of like looked down on other people for being stupid and idiotic. So that's what I decided to play up in his dialogue.
I think you did a really good job with this, because I did the same thing where I looked up videos of how it was done by other people, and most of the time the chorus was played by multiple people with like a lead chorus member, but Sean pulled it all on himself, and he did a great job with it. And for Strepsiades, I had to look up what like typical Athenians were like, what their daily activities were like, and considering how their banking system worked, where he had a lot of debts he needed to pay off. So like it gave me a lot of context into the kind of frustration that he might be feeling, or like, since most Greek commoners were not really like literate or educated profoundly, and I had to like play a very kind of stupid buffooning kind of role for Strepsiades, and I thought it was really funny.
I also did some research on the play because I thought this version of Socrates was kind of different from in class we read the Socratic dialogue by Plato, and it turns out that is the case. The historians, a lot of historians feel like this might have been based off an earlier version of Socrates, and he might have been. This was kind of critiquing him, and he might have been influenced by that criticism and became more of the person that Plato then later covered, because he's kind of different when Plato's giving sort of a philosophical version of Socrates versus Aristophanes is kind of mocking and making fun of Socrates. So kind of approaching that when doing the character.
And I think that when we were trying to understand like the greater and lesser argument, having read like Euthyphro and having read the Apology gave us a lot of context about what the greater argument was and what like people were saying about Socrates, because they were like, like especially in Apology, Socrates especially even mentions the clouds, because he's like, I know a lot of you have seen the clouds, and it's like mocking me and telling you that I, preach by the lesser argument, but it's not the case. But it did give us a lot of context about what greater and lesser argument was.
Yeah, I saw that it's thought that this play actually helped lead to the trial of Socrates. Because when we read through that, it talked about people were like, well, you don't believe in the gods. And he's like, no, I do. But in this play, clearly, he's like, who's Zeus?
Yeah.
That guy. Don't believe in him. So, that was kind of interesting to learn the historical context there.
Mm-hmm.
What parts of the play did you find the funniest?
This is hard.
I like puns. And when we were doing the first read-throughs, like the astronomy and stuff.
Yeah, that was a
I'm
good
really
one.
glad that I wasn't having to act during that part, because I always like crack up whenever they say it, especially the way that Gary says it. It's like, it's so funny.
Yeah.
What parts did you guys find funniest?
I'm looking through the script. See something funny.
I thought for the most part we picked the funniest parts.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We
The
definitely
dialogue between Socrates and Strepsiades, and then the
did.
dialogue.
Yeah, that was the
I like the part where the students like talking about the gnat and then whether the hum is generated via its mouth or its anus. I like, it's like so stupid and so immature, but like that's what makes it funny.
yeah. I think a lot of people can agree that, I guess you guys can agree too, but like the whole bickering between Socrates and Strepsiades, it was just so funny that there were some parts where it was hard for me, like while I was playing Strepsiades, not to laugh, because Patrick was just like, he was just on it. He had his facial expressions of like irritation, just rolling his eyes, and he was like, you uneducated, and like, but what was it? What was that one word that he used?
There's so many, like, you uneducated, barbaric old fool, you pre-Cronian, da 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 da. Those parts are always funny because Socrates sounds so confident, and he says stuff that's like kind of close to true, but then it's also so like not, that it's
Yeah, he just starts
like when
rambling
someone's
sometimes.
confidently wrong.
Oh yeah. But as long as you believe it, it's true, right? So
Yeah.
That's the best part.
Are there any parts of the play you feel could apply to today?
For sure. You know, a lot of when I was thinking about Socrates, I was thinking about those like typical like teachers and professors that are just so they're just so sure of themselves. Like you were saying, he was just very overconfident, very like cocky, and like every time you like try to ask them like questions, like, you know, you're genuinely like trying to understand what's going on, and they're just like, you imbecile, you stupid, you pre-Cronian, prehistoric. And I just thought, I guess in a way, like the way Socrates is portrayed as this like educated intellectual thinker, you could kind of compare it to like how a lot of cocky professors can be. It's not all of them.
Yeah.
I definitely think people today could definitely apply this to their daily lives, especially people that are in debt, because I'm sure a ton of people would love to just go somewhere and learn how to talk their way out of debt. So I definitely think that would apply.
Yeah. And it's, if you think about it, it's such a classic storytelling starting point. The main character has all this money that they need to pay, and it's coming up, and they have to, you know, it can be like they owe money to the mafia, they're in debt, they've, you know, they haven't made their payments, or they're there's movies like where they're getting all their stuff taken away and then they have nothing. Or even like in Star Wars, the Solo movies about like, we're gonna owe this guy money, we got to go figure out how to. So it's like, it's basically the philosopher version of, I owe money, how can I get out of it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Was there any aspect of the play that was surprising? Not necessarily the part that we covered, but the ending of the play is kind of like out of left field a little bit.
Yeah, just I agree.
Beating up his dad and burning everything down.
I thought the whole, you know, even before we read this play, I thought the whole like notion of clouds was just so surprising. Like I thought, you know, Socrates would be like, let's pray to the celestial bodies, or, you know, like don't like pray to anyone at all. But the fact that he was like preaching like the clouds to be this new version of God and the new version of Zeus, I thought that was really surprising for someone that's like educated and an intellect that's kind of woke about how real gods are.
I wondered if it was like an allegory for philosophers kind of having their heads in the clouds, like just
That actually makes sense.
they think so
That's
much
really
about
smart.
thinking that they get removed from reality. Because in the play, it was hard to show this on Zoom. This was probably actually one of the most challenging parts to do on Zoom, because it would be a really funny moment in the play is when Socrates is lowered by a crane. Obviously, I don't have access to a crane, so can't do that. So it was like trying to like hover over my chair and sit down. Finding out that I don't have as much squatting power as I thought I did. So yeah, that's like, because that to me kind of speaks like Socrates is literally like up removed from reality. He's just off doing his own thing in the clouds. That's what I thought it was. I don't know if that's the actual historical thing, but
yeah, but that's actually a really good interpretation. I hadn't thought about that.
I have a philosopher friend who majors.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that helped you out.
I eventually just get to the point where it's like, dude, you are like, I like engaging in philosophy a little bit and ethics and stuff, but I was like, you are thinking about this way too much.
You know, Socrates 2.0, Socrates reincarnated.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe you just manifested.
Who was your favorite character?
I wasn't this character, but I really like Stripsiades, and I think Gar did a good job acting in his part, because he's just so goofy, and the stuff that he says is just so funny.
Thank you. I actually really liked Socrates. The whole I just thought he was such a savage dude. The fact that he can just like come up with like roasts on the spot, and he just had this like carefree, kind of cocky, intellectual like vibe about him that I just thought it was such a like funny character. And I do think Patrick did a really good job of, you know, being that person.
Yeah, I'm biased. I like Socrates. I did a project on him in high school, so I've liked Socrates for a long time. He has some of the funniest quotes. Not all of them are from this play. I don't know what the other quotes are, but he's just on a different level. But I did like Stripsiades has like such determination that he just doesn't take no for an answer, which is I think what makes him a good main character. It's because his in the whole play, he tells his son, go and roll at the ponditorium. And the son's like, no. So he's like, fine, I'll go do it myself. And then he goes to the door. He's like, let me in. The student says, no. He says, please, please, please let me in. He gets in. And then he's like, let me in more. And Socrates is like, I don't know. You got to do all this stuff. And he just keeps going on. So his perseveration is, I admire that. And Gari did a really good job. She also did all those lines are like so funny, the way she flips them.
I think like now that you bring up like the fact that like, you know, Stripsiades is so like he wants to persevere, he doesn't take no for an answer. It's like a little paradox where he's so lazy that he would rather try to use the lesser argument to talk his way out of the debt, but he's also so determined to like use the lazy way out that it's like, you know, are you actually like overworking yourself to try to, you know, do the lazy part? So it just, I think it's I think like that was intentional by Aristophanes, because he's trying to say that all these like philosophers, they think they're really like smart and they're trying to work their way out of it, but they're just lazy and they're just using that lazy to do something.
Have you guys watched Parks and Recreation?
No.
Have you watched Parks and Recreation?
Yeah, I mean, I see some episodes.
Okay,
I'm an Office guy.
There's a character, Ron Swanson, and he's the director of the Parks Department. So he's a government employee, but he hates the government. There's a section, and he's played by a very serious character. And there's a part where he's like, I will work. His whole goal is to make sure the government gets as little done possible. Like, I want to avoid working as much as possible. I want people who don't work, but I will work all night if it means nothing gets done. I will go through so much effort to make sure nothing happens.
Yeah,
so
I guess that's another way.
Yeah, Stripsiades
can apply.
I will go through so much effort to take the easy route instead of like going through so much effort to take the high route.
Yeah. But to be honest, I really liked the clouds because they're everything, like they're whatever they were saying, it was so divine, so melodic, so heavenly that it was just like, oh, so like it had like a cool rhyming sequence too. So I thought it was a really cool clouds were cool. Maybe I'm gonna start preaching clouds now. I've been inspired. So
I was thinking,
Sean, thank you, Sean.
No problem.
It's actually, most of it's written in verse. Like a lot of and we had parts in the part that we covered where actually it's written for Strepsiades, and the chorus are like supposed to be talking in kind of verse. It's rhythmic, it's poetry. I'm like, it's almost like a rap battle. It'd be funny to do.
Yeah, they're just going back and forth.
Version of it.
Epic rap battle of the history.
Yeah, if they like that, if Lin-Manuel Miranda could do like a version of Strepsiades and Socrates arguing, but it's like a rap battle, that would be really funny.
I think so too.
What things from class helped you the most in understanding the play?
I would say reading the apology was pretty helpful because it helps you get the like perspective of the other people that don't like Socrates and what they think of him, of like this arrogant, cocky guy who thinks he's smarter than everyone. So reading the apology was definitely really helpful.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be with Sean on this one. I think the apology, Thefro helped the most. And also, like, I guess the lectures that we've done about like just the kind of relationship that Athenians had with the theater system, and like, this is, I guess you could argue based on the ending of this play, it's a tragedy and a tragedy. So I think it was interesting to learn the difference between the two and like understand the phases through which people enjoyed one play or the other.
Yeah, I think for me, the material we went over in class, that we studied a lot about like ancient Athenian life. So for like what I used for motivation was understanding that they had a different set of like rules. Like we read about how like women couldn't go out of the house at certain times, or it was all very, there's rules, there's things you can and can't do, and there's this systematic structure of here's what we believe, and here's, you got to follow this thing. So Socrates as a character, he seems like somebody who's kind of taking those rules and saying, forget all that, do your own thing. But then he's kind of just making his own rules that seem quite as arbitrary or nonsensical at times. So kind of having that understanding of the character, like, yes, he's questioning things as they are, but it's not like he's a modern person today with a completely modern mindset. He still is very much rooted in that system. If you could change any one thing about the play to better match historical ancient Greece, what would it be?
I already have an answer for this one. I hated I just absolutely, I hated the ending. It was so dumb. I needed that closure, but I didn't get that closure, and I was just so mad about it. But I think, to be honest, I think a better ending would be instead of Strepsiades getting beat up by his son and like burning down the Ponditorium, I thought it would be better if, this would like be a tangent into the apology, and how maybe Strepsiades realizes that, Socrates is a fraud. I need to go file a case against him. And like he does that. And then now you have the case where Strepsiades or Socrates is, at court. Like I thought that would make sense, but I guess it's more of, when the play was written, when the timing was, and what, one's fiction, the other's real.
Yeah. What about you, Sean?
I mean, I would have liked to see Strepsiades talk his way out of debt. That would have been pretty cool. But I mean, that's never how it happens in real life. You can't just talk your way out of debt. But if it did, I think it would have made a happier ending rather than him getting beat up by his son. But that's just me.
I don't know. I can't think of anything. It makes so many references to like ancient Athenian life that I don't even understand, that I don't know if I would have a strong enough grasp of something to like cut something in. But
Make a
who
better
knows?
ending.
Maybe if I had lived back then, I would probably be quite opinionated as to like what should change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions you guys want to talk about?
We can talk about like the historical significance of the play.
Okay.
So, what are some of, or when we first read through almost all of the play, I think we were only like a few pages short, but what do you think was the biggest takeaway? And I it's probably going to be different for all of us.
Biggest takeaway of
The play, or
the
like
play.
what the play was trying to tell us.
Well, I would definitely say that the ancient Athenians had like they laughed at a lot of immature jokes, I think. That's what it seemed like with their comedy. And
Mhm.
so it was just a lot of like toilet humor and a bunch of puns and stuff. So it like reading through the play and acting out the play kind of helped us get to know about the Athenian culture and what they thought was funny and what they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll go off that. There's some cultural humor that's very different and requires like context, and you can't always understand it. Like sometimes if you hear like a joke from Japan or China or another country, you'll be like, how's that funny? Because you didn't grow up with the cultural context that makes it funny, or the mindset that makes it funny. So I was kind of surprised by how a lot of this humor was very like we even though you don't, I mean, we have lots of segmented comedy, so you might find puns here and you'll find bathroom humor here and stuff like that, but I found a lot of their humor styles were still stuff that we had, and even I thought the kind of the meta references, like the references to the comic playwright was kind of wink at the it was a self-deprecating
The judges.
he's writing it and he's like, you're an idiot like a playwright. So you could throw that in like a modern meta show and that kind of humor would fit right in. And then also it was interesting to see how they used their religion or their beliefs in like regular usage, because I feel like a lot of times when we study ancient Greek mythology, we treat it as like this big epic, but we don't always get the context for the everyday like religious use. Like he just mentions,
Yeah, for sure.
It's very casual and natural. It's very everyday thing for him.
You're right. A lot of other plays are like epics, like the Iliad. You're talking about Achilles, who's like the son of God, and like, but now not a single time in this play that you've had like people that are like mythological or like, you know, they're some sort of descendant of gods. If anything, the only time gods were referenced is to discredit them, and it was just very more mortals. I was going to say moral, and I was like, that's not right. More mortals. And it was a very new intake on Greek history.
Yeah.
And I guess the other like big takeaway for me was, I guess we kind of talked about this in class, but it was like this play really reminded me of SNL, where we critique, you know, like everyday real life people, real life situations, and how usually if you're the first one to pioneer something, you're going to get really critiqued by people because they don't want to change, they don't want to do something new. But eventually, as time goes on, now like Socrates is like, oh my god, let's do a Socratic seminar. It's like huge. but I guess it really like brought out to me that it takes time for things to become accepted.
For sure. Let's do a couple of questions to kind of cover a couple more things that Jeff had. So let's talk about preparing for the play, more specifically like the physical stuff. Sean, do you want to talk about the like us preparing for the togas?
Yeah, so I just had, my regular white toga, but I saw that Patrick had two different togas for the students and Socrates. Wait, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, yeah. And then so we had to make sure, like for me, I had to get a map of ancient Greece, and I couldn't really find like a map that's actually from Greece, and it's like in that old style. So I kind of just had to get, one off Google, but that ended up working out. And then Gary, she had to get the wreath, the ritual wreath, and yeah, go pull that up.
You also changed your t-shirts for the roles too. So
yeah, you're right. So I had my white tee for when I was the clouds, and then my black tee for when I was one of the students.
Yeah.
So I thought that would help differentiate between the different characters.
And we had to look up different ways to tie the toga. I think most of the videos are from like the Roman period, so we tried to get it as close as we can to ancient Greece. But like, so Gari did hers one way that we thought a farmer might have it, and then we tried to do a different way for students, and then have Socrates have like a different way. So we tried to use, even though we're still doing it on Zoom, we still tried to have some props and costume decisions going on.
Yeah. That was like one of the main things we're worried about is like, how are we going to be able to show them that we're like different characters? So that's why we got the names in the Zoom call, and then the different togas and all that.
I also thought it was really, really effortful of, I don't even think that's a word, but of
a word now.
Yeah.
It's a word now. Of Patrick, because he usually has his hair like slicked back and all like looking nice, and he even like clean shaven, but he decided to grow out a little stubble just for the play, and he like made his hair all shabby.
See it a little
we
bit.
can see it.
That was my that was my method acting. I wanted to get into the mindset of Socrates, who typically is depicted as very unkempt and unshaven, and I did my hair different, so it would have looked weird if Socrates was like, and well, our rehearsals were like that because I didn't do my hair differently for the rehearsals, so it's like Socrates is like slick backed, hard parted hair. It just that's not
just wouldn't fit.
Man. And I thought we did a really good job, because one of our inspirations for this was like a theater company did a Zoom version of the play. And they didn't like or at least Strepsiades and Socrates didn't have props. I think the chorus had like props, but not everyone had costumes. So I thought we did a really good job making sure everybody had a costume, everybody had a prop, and that kind of helps you get into character, even though it's more of like it's like a mixture between doing a film or a video and a play, because you're dealing with the camera and stuff. And so we talked about what we thought, what were the connections between the play and modern times. What were some disconnections you thought? Like, what do you think was really different?
I guess this is not in the part of the play that we did, but the part where to talk about his debts, usually that's done at a bank, or it's done, privately between, the creditor and like the borrower. But this was done, I believe, was it the Colosseum? Where was it done? It was in a pub, like it was at the assembly, right?
The debts?
Because, towards like the end of the play where Strepsiades and his son go to, I think it was in the assembly, like it was in a very like public setting, and it was done to like a group of people, whereas in modern life, obviously a bank or do it in private. But that was definitely one of the that I could think of.
I'm trying to think what else was different.
Yeah.
Clothing.
Clothing was very different. This is true.
What does it mean by disconnections? Like,
What was different, I guess, from their culture to ours today?
Disconnections did you feel, or what connections did you feel with the characters and the situation? What disconnections did you feel with characters and situation?
that's a toughie.
Well, for connections, I think like for me doing strepsides was really fun because I'm kind of like I guess it's more of like a personality. I'm kind of like a goofy person that makes like stupid jokes, you know, and I think like, or act stupid. And I think that's what strepsides was doing a lot of the time. And, you know, just doing that, it didn't feel too unnatural for me. And I think the personalities of Socrates, strepsides, and like the students, the personalities haven't changed as much. You can still find people like that today. But I think like the situations were different.
Yeah. You like cut out for a second. I don't know what happened.
Oh, it was my
Oh, no, you're
battery.
good now.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, and just for disconnections, Strepsiades is an old man farmer, which
Mhm.
I'm assuming you are not, Gary.
I'm not.
And the chorus was supposed
But
to
am
be
I
all-
though?
Yeah.
You never know.
Are you older than we think you are?
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
just an old man.
Yeah.
You can't see the wrinkles? It's all covered up with makeup. It's all the wrinkles. You see it?
Uh-huh.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I was Strepsiades, I wouldn't even get into a situation where I had that much debt. So, like,
But not if you had a son who really liked horses. You can't blame my man Strepsides.
I tell my son,
Yeah,
too bad, man. You get Jack Diddley squat because we're poor. And then, well, for me, and then like Socrates is very like demeaning to people he thinks is stupid.
Oh yeah.
And I might have that natural inclination, like if I feel like somebody's not getting it, but I generally try to be more like understanding if someone's having a problem, and if there's like a miscommunication, I wouldn't be like rolling my eyes and be like, well, someone's dumb. So that was a disconnect between me and Socrates.
Yeah, and well, first off, for me, the chorus and the
You're
cloud
not a cloud.
are supposed to be all. Yeah, well, I'm not a cloud, and I'm not a woman. And but at the beginning, like when we first started out, I'm pretty sure I was strepsides, and then so I don't know. It's like I don't really fit that personality. And I thought Gary was definitely like a better fit for that. So when we made that change, I think that just made everything, that just got the ball rolling.
Yeah. Props to Sean, because he had hesitation at first about doing the chorus.
Yeah.
And I feel for him. I wouldn't like, because you're supposed to be singing and but
Yeah, I don't really got the best singing voice.
he did a really good job. So
I think you still did great.
yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I
Got
thought
that
about
halo and
singing.
glow when you
Yeah.
cloud back then.
I was like looking around. I
You
thought
look
about singing,
angelic.
but like I didn't know like what kind of
Songs.
like how, yeah, what kind of song I'm supposed to sing.
When in doubt,
what's the
do
tune?
joy to the world.
Yeah.
Or
Just
when in
put on
doubt,
some
sing happy
shades.
birthday.
Start the beat. Let the verses roll.
Yeah.
I know.
Beatbox.
That would be a funny way to do it too.
Is there anything else?
I think we've covered research, humanizing the characters. Oh, did we focus on trying to keep it historical or trying to keep it modern?
I think we kept it historical. We didn't make any changes to any of the script.
Yeah. For the most part, I think we mainly tried to do it how the version the text that we were looking at. We tried to keep it pretty close to that. I think the real big difference was we just didn't have like the verses and the singing, which would have been more historical for what they did at that time. And then we maybe tried to put some more modern inflection on it, but for the most part, we tried to keep it more historical.
Definitely. And I guess like disconnecting that is just like the props and our like setting. We tried our best with like pictures, but obviously, you know, it's not completely the same. But I think we did a good job with keeping it historic rather than a modern interpretation.
I feel like it would lose, like if you tried to change all the dialogue and stuff to be completely.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I feel like
I want to get a feel
lot
for
of its
it.
meaning. Like a lot of the meaning is how they talk and how they make their points and the things they say. And so if you tried to make it like really modern, I feel like it wouldn't work very well.
Yeah. It would lose the element of like stepping into the shoes of like Athenians and like being in that time.
Yeah. You could make like Socrates could be like a really scummy lawyer. And Strepsiades could still be like a modern farmer or something, or having. I feel like instead of a farmer, maybe have him be like kind of a shady business person,
like stocks.
He just made a bad investment.
He's kind of gotten himself into a bind, and so then he seeks out the lawyer, and the lawyer's like, "Okay, listen, here's what you got to do.
Just gotta talk your way out of it."
Yeah, so maybe that could have been a way we do a modern interpretation.
That would have been a lot more work though, because you'd have to rework everything. Yeah. And that ends our roundtable discussion.